Everything was going fine and 3 champions were selected from each school. Students from each house were celebrating when suddenly the goblet of fire began burning with intense white flames. It should have been stabilized by now, but this time the flames were much more violent. It looked like the ancient magic on the goblet was struggling with something fiercely. And then, out of nowhere, the figure of a man appeared in the flames, and a parchment flew from the flames towards the principal. Albus Dumbledore himself was very confused at the moment. Then he caught the piece of paper and read the name on it. At first he could not believe his eyes. This name had disappeared from the world years ago, and he had tried almost every magic he knew to find the boy, but each result only showed that the boy did not exist in the world anymore. But now, seeing the name on the paper and feeling a powerful presence inside the goblet, Dumbledore could not process what was happening. Then the flames weakened and a man stepped out from the flames. He had the same eyes and the same scar on his forehead. The same magical signatures, but his age was much more older than it should be. There was no doubt it was the same boy. He came out of his thoughts and looked around. Now the students were looking worried and the adults were already pointing their wands on the man. Then Dumbledore spoke the name aloud. Harry Potter, champion of Hogwarts. The entire hall erupted with noise. No one could believe what they were hearing. But if Dumbledore himself had confirmed the man's identity, then it would be true. But everyone was wondering how can the boy who lived had grown so much, and why he was wearing a strange combat uniform. And he looked more like a warrior than the heir to an ancient house. But the man himself was standing calmly, noticing everything and everyone around him, as if calculating whom to attack first. And when the principal spoke his name, there was something colder in his eyes, and he replied in a calm but cold voice, "That name no longer belongs to me. My name is Senju Arashi, a warrior of Konoha." Dumbledore then walked to the man and introduced himself, but the man had no idea of what Hogwarts or Wizarding World was. So he explained everything to the man in as short words as he could. When Dumbledore informed the man that the goblet had summoned him for the Triwizard Tournament and had formed a soul contract, the man had gone completely out of control. A mysterious force erupted from his body and a strong killing intent enveloped the hall. For a moment, Dumbledore thought he was standing in front of a powerful Dark Lord. Even Professor Snape had almost lost control over his emotions, but then the pressure vanished and the man spoke that he had no interest in this tournament, but now that he was here, he would finish the game and go back to where he came from. To everyone present in the hall, one thing was clear. This man was very dangerous and could not be controlled. Professor Minerva McGonagall escorted Arashi to a guest room after getting Dumbledore's secret message. Along the way, Arashi noticed everything around him carefully. He was fascinated by the living paintings and moving stairs. But he was also becoming more and more aware that this world was far more dangerous than what he knew. This castle itself disturbed Arashi because he could feel very powerful and ancient force emanating from it. This force was just like the chakra, but more wild and more ancient. Once the woman left him alone, Arashi immediately tested whether his chakra worked here. And he was amazed to feel that his abilities were much more powerful with the same effort than it had been in his own world. It looked like the magic here was strengthening his body and chakra slowly but constantly. Then he began worrying about how to return. He could not think of any way to return home. He knew this was a different world, but there was no known way to travel between them. He moved to the window of the castle and was considering his options when he saw an owl flying from the castle carrying a letter, and he got the idea of trying to summon his contracted battle owl. If he was successful, then he could send information back home, and maybe just like Narumi, he could use the ninja owls to travel between the worlds. After that, he wasted no effort and bit his thumb and pressed it on the scroll and performed summoning ritual, and from a thick smoke his large battle owl appeared in the room. Arashi was now very happy because maybe he had found a way to return home, and now that this tension was lifted from his mind, he began thinking of what to do next. During this time, the owl was looking very confused. This did not feel like any place he was familiar with. Even the energy here was very different from the chakra of Shinobi world. He looked toward Arashi and finally asked him where it was. Arashi told him everything clearly and wrote a letter for Narumi and Kakashi, telling them the whole situation, and instructed the owl to leave and give the letter personally to only Narumi or Hokage Kakashi, and the owl left with a puff of smoke. After that, Arashi fell asleep on the bed. He was very tired from today's events, and starting tomorrow, he would have to learn more about this world. From the next day, Arashi began collecting information on the wizarding world. Dumbledore summoned him in his office and asked how he had disappeared from the world and where he was, how he aged up. Arashi told the man that he, as a child, somehow ended up in another world magically, and the time ratio of two worlds were very different. He grew up there and also had a family. If not for this incident, he wouldn't have come here. Then their conversation ended and Arashi left the old man alone. For the first few days it was difficult for him to do anything because here he had no connections. He did not trust the kind-looking principal and any other adults around. And after his show of killing intent, most of the students were either afraid of him or they behaved very strangely. But during these days, he was able to know that Harry Potter was like a celebrity in Wizarding World because he, as an infant, somehow defeated a Dark Lord, which he almost found absurd. But knowing this background, he could almost guess why someone wanted him here. In upcoming days, some students eventually started approaching him. A cocky boy named Draco Malfoy wanted him to join his circle, but Arashi didn't like the way he behaved, so Malfoy's offer was declined. And then a group of 3 students approached him, a girl named Hermione and 2 boys, Neville Longbottom and Ron Weasley. At first they were hesitating, then they started asking too many questions. Arashi told them everything as much as possible. During this time he began liking the trio somehow, and they started spending more time with each other. Hermione helped him with gathering the information. They spent most of the time in library. During this time, Arashi also learned some magical spells, and he was able to perform it easily without any wand. At the same time, in Shinobi world, when Arashi disappeared, Narumi immediately informed Kakashi of the matter, and they began searching for him. Just when they were assigning missions to different trusted men, Arashi's battle owl delivered them the letter. When they learned that Arashi was in another world and could not return for now, Narumi immediately wanted to somehow find a way to go there, but traveling between worlds was not that easy, and No one had ever done that before, and an owl had different physique and chakra from a human. So they contacted the land of toads and began planning on how to travel between worlds. Back in Wizarding World, Arashi had now gathered much knowledge on his background and on the Wizarding World history and current affairs. He even wrote letters to his parents' old friends who were still alive. Some of them replied back, telling him of what they knew of his parents. One man named Remus Lupin in particular was very eager to meet him, but he was very busy with some affairs. He sent him very detailed information about his parents and told many stories. He even sent many of their photo albums during and after their school time. Arashi felt very emotional when he learned that they had died protecting him. He never got to know about them before. When he lived with Dursleys, they had even lied to him about everything. At the same time, he was also very angry and almost lost control of his emotions when he learned that all this happened because of a traitor named Sirius Black, who had betrayed his parents. He wanted to tear the man apart when he learned that the man was still alive in a wizarding prison. But at this time he could not be reckless, as the whole wizarding world was now watching him closely. These days almost every news media of Wizarding World was talking about him. Some said he was an impostor Death Eater who had killed Harry Potter himself. Others even doubted Dumbledore's sanity and abilities. But one thing no one could deny was the ancient magic of Goblet of Fire. During this time, some wizards from the Ministry of Magic and even some goblins from Wizarding Bank named Gringotts had visited Hogwarts, and each party performed their own blood and house recognition rituals. Every result showed that he was Harry Potter. And in the end, due to his age, he was given the title of Head of House Potter and control over all of his family properties as well. Arashi visited all the estates and properties he had and wondered if Dumbledore had not placed him with Dursleys. Maybe he would be living an entirely different life. But he was also very happy of his current life. In the Shinobi world, despite of all the hardships, he had built his own life, where no one wanted to be with him just because his family background was solid or he was the boy who lived. In his world, he had friends who truly cared for him, and most importantly, he had Narumi, his life partner and his beloved. With each passing day, Arashi missed her more and more, but he could not go back because Goblet of Fire had formed a soul-bounding contract until the tournament ends. Arashi was now living at his family estate where there was no one to watch or spy over him. These days he used the Potter family influence and gold to collect all the information he needed, which was more detailed than what Hermione could have gathered from Hogwarts library. As the time of the tournament neared, Dumbledore requested him to move back inside Hogwarts, as champions were not allowed to go outside the Hogwarts castle. So Arashi moved back, but this time he was fully prepared. A week before the first task of tournament, during breakfast, suddenly a large amount of smoke appeared around Arashi, and when the smoke cleared, 3 figures stood nearby: Tsunade, Hinata, and Narumi. The moment she saw him, Narumi moved at a speed unimaginable for the wizards and threw herself at him, weeping and kissing him without any care of the world. After some time passed, she separated from him and told Arashi that they took help from the toads and were able to open a passage between 2 worlds using Arashi's contract with battle owls as a key. The entire Great Hall was silent at this point, and the professors present were shocked and ready to fight. 3 unknown figures had appeared out of nowhere at the place which is considered one of the most safe and magically protected place of entire wizarding world. Everyone was now waiting for Dumbledore to speak, and the principal was just looking at the 3 figures nervously, especially at the lady who appeared to be in charge of the group. He could feel a large amount of power contained in her body, power that was much more than even his old lover Gellert Grindelwald. But it was only the raw power, which did not mean he could not contain her if necessary. In a magical battle, knowledge was as important as just the power, but still she was a figure not to be messed with. Dumbledore told Arashi to meet inside the principal office with the strangers and left the hall. Arashi took his friends in the office where Dumbledore was introduced to the 3 women. When Dumbledore was sure they were safe, he allowed them to live in Hogwarts until tournament ended. He did not try to be very close to Arashi or even Narumi, because after watching Arashi for nearly a month, the old man knew the other world was likely a more dangerous place and had trained the boy into a man who could not be influenced by anyone anymore. Next few days, the trio stayed with Arashi, and he told them of everything he had gathered about the wizarding world so far. He even shared all details he found about his parents' incident. Tsunade and Hinata were very interested in the knowledge about a new world, but Narumi just wanted to be with Arashi and return home as soon as possible. Hinata's Byakugan was very useful at this time, as she could see things hidden from the naked eye. After only 2 days of stay, she had found Peter Pettigrew hiding in Hogwarts as a rat. But the rat slipped away through hidden passages as soon as she got near him, and she was unable to chase him, because even after using all her might, she was unable to see through Hogwarts' protections. It felt as if the castle itself was alive, and the magic inside was blocking her view. After returning, she gathered everyone in Arashi's room and told them of her discovery. At first, they were unable to understand why Peter Pettigrew would hide in this way. He was considered a hero who confronted Sirius Black, the traitor, and died honorably in the blast. Then why would he need to hide as if someone would kill him? They reached the same conclusion, that things were far from what they had gathered so far. And now they could not continue on their own. They needed someone who had enough political influence and power to know everything. And everyone could only think of a single name, Albus Dumbledore. That night the group made their decision. The next morning they would confront Albus Dumbledore directly and demand answers regarding Harry Potter, Voldemort, and the enemies hiding within Hogwarts itself. At the same time, far away in another section of the castle, hidden behind magical darkness, a man quietly lowered his wand after listening through enchanted surveillance. Barty Crouch Jr. slowly stood up from his seat. The shinobi were more powerful than him and had strange abilities. He had maintained distance from them these days, observing them from afar, and it seemed he made the right decision. But they were dangerously getting close to the truth, and that could ruin everything if he messed up before completing his mission. And that meant the final stage of the plan would need to begin much sooner than expected. The following morning, Arashi and group confronted Dumbledore in his office. They told him of their discoveries and demanded the answers they wanted to know. Dumbledore almost denied their discovery of Pettigrew until he remembered that Shinobi were trained to have almost photographic memories and were best at finding information. Then he spoke. If Peter Pettigrew is truly alive, but has been hiding illegally all this time, then we may have something in the case that we had either missed or overlooked. The old wizard stood and slowly walked toward the office window overlooking Hogwarts grounds. For years, the Ministry believed the matter was settled. Sirius Black betrayed James and Lily Potter to Voldemort, and Peter Pettigrew confronted him afterward and died trying to stop him. I always doubted something was strange in the case, but the proofs were very clear, and that time I was busy dealing with the aftermath of the war. Then, after much hesitation, he told the group about what he knew of Voldemort. Tom Riddle, known later as Lord Voldemort, was once a student at Hogwarts. He was brilliant, exceptionally talented, charismatic, but even as a child, there was something deeply wrong with him. Years ago, Voldemort began gathering followers and started a magical war across Britain. Many people feared him, and many others worshipped him as their master. Dumbledore looked at Arashi and continued further. Your parents fought against him alongside many others. The night Voldemort attacked your parents, something happened that nobody fully understood. He vanished after attempting to kill you, and everyone believed that he had died. But he was not really dead, and I eventually discovered the truth many years later. Voldemort had survived, Dumbledore said quietly. Not truly alive, but not dead either. His soul somehow survived in a weakened state. Magic has many terrible ways to escape death. 3 years earlier, a professor named Quirrell returned to Hogwarts under Voldemort's influence. Voldemort had attached himself to Quirrell like a parasite, using him while searching for a method to regain a physical body. I suspected something was wrong long before he acted openly. Then I laid a trap and Quirrell was captured. But before I could seal Voldemort's weakened soul completely, he escaped. Later, Quirrell himself was sent to Azkaban after evidence proved his involvement with dark magic and Death Eater activity. Sonali crossed her arms thoughtfully. So, Voldemort has been hiding somewhere all this time, and now someone manipulated your tournament to summon Arashi specifically. Dumbledore's silence was answer enough. The room slowly grew heavier as the implications settled over everyone. Someone inside Hogwarts was helping it all happen. Finally, Dumbledore looked towards them seriously. If Pettigrew truly is hiding inside Hogwarts, then we must find him as soon as possible to uncover the truth. Over the next few days, Hogwarts had quietly become a hunting ground. Without alerting the students, Dumbledore had increased security around the castle. Dumbledore had given them temporary access to main parts of the castle, and they could move freely in Hogwarts. Late one evening, Hinata finally detected him again inside Gryffindor Tower, and this time the whole group gathered together and caught the mouse before he could escape. Dense plants had grown from the floor, suddenly catching the rat mid-air, and a moment later, when pain was unbearable, the rat turned back into the human form. A short, trembling man collapsed onto the floor in panic. Peter Pettigrew. His eyes were widened in terror as he stared at the shinobi surrounding him. Please don't kill me." Arashi looked down at him coldly. "Why have you been hiding as a rat for 14 years?" Pettigrew immediately began sobbing. "I had no choice. They could have killed me." Just then Dumbledore, McGonagall, and Snape arrived inside the dormitory. The moment Snape saw Pettigrew alive, his expression changed completely. Years of hatred and bitterness surfaced instantly. Dumbledore explained everything to the two professors. Snape stared at Pettigrew silently for several long seconds and told everyone that he had some Veritaserum in his possession to force the truth out of the rat. A short while later, Pettigrew was tied to a chair inside Dumbledore's office, shaking, while Snape personally prepared the potion. Then he brutally forced the Veritaserum down Pettigrew's throat. Minutes later, the truth finally emerged. Pettigrew confessed to serving Voldemort and betraying the Potters. And finally, he confessed to framing Sirius Black before hiding as a rat among the Weasley family for years. Silence filled the entire office afterward. The following morning, Dumbledore personally escorted Peter Pettigrew to Ministry of Magic. The trial that was held shook the entire wizarding world. For years, Sirius Black had been remembered as a man who betrayed James and Lily Potter to Voldemort. But now, under Veritaserum, Peter Pettigrew confessed to everything. He had served Voldemort willingly. He had revealed the Potters' location as their secret keeper. And afterwards, he framed Sirius before hiding himself as a rat. By the end of the trial, Sirius Black was officially declared innocent. But freedom did not erase 12 years he had spent inside Azkaban. And Barty Crouch Jr., who had always been watching the group from a distance, was now unable to wait any longer. He was sure they would not be able to succeed according to their original plan. So he decided to change his plans. Now he would have to revive his master earlier than they originally planned. And for that purpose, he would need the blood of his master's enemy.